All right, TCE by Zeni.
Doggy.
What up, dude?
What up?
Appreciate you driving out here.
Of course.
Fuck, you drove from fucking Jersey to Chicago. We in the suburbs though. Where you going next,
dude? So Chicago, and then it's Denver,
Denver.
and then after Denver, it's Las Vegas.
Vegas. What are you doing in Vegas?
So there's a little comedy festival. It's Skankfest. Skankfest. Anybody who watches Skankfest, I'm going out there. I'm gonna see every comedian I've ever wanted to see. So
What are some big names?
none of them are big names.
Not
bro.
even like a Joe Rogan, Tom Segura.
No. They're all bugging. Nah, it's like Shane Gillis.
He's fucking fire.
Yeah, Shane Gillis is like one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Dillon, Nick Mullen.
Those are some big names.
Yeah. Nah,
They're
they're all
like Andrew Schultz.
no Schultz. I don't think Schultz is going.
He's fucking.
Yeah, he's
fine.
funny. The special was made good.
Oh, you seen that?
Yeah. I just watched Infamous was made good. Everybody, dude. Big J. It's run by Big J and Louis J and all those guys. So I'm super fucking excited. This is my first like comedy show. So I've never done anything like that, and I needed to take a trip in the fucking van. So,
dude, speaking about the van, this whole like arrangement, this is where you're living out of, like driving to like. This is the first time I've ever been in like a converted van. You got the bed right behind me.
yeah, the bed comes here. I got the fridge. I got sink. I got AC.
Stove,
I got heat.
like.
Yeah, I got everything you could need.
And you converted this whole thing.
Yeah. So my background's a little bit in construction, so I kind of knew a little bit about like cutting wood and all that kind of shit. So it just started with that, and I took a trip last year. I was in Seattle and drove back, so that kind of like put me on this path. I was like, I gotta fucking keep driving. I gotta do a van, all that kind of shit.
So hands-on work, like. Speaking about hands-on work, like shit, I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for like that hands-on sewing work, you know? Like, this was a pretty like, not generic, but like original, like I just followed you not too long ago. You followed me, like yo, what up? And then some way somehow I saw you converting this van. I'm like, oh shit, and then we're just going back and forth, and you're telling me you're gonna go, you know, to like Colorado from Jersey. I'm like, yo. What if you make a stop in Chicago and, like, let's knock out an interview and boom, you're here.
I love when shit works out. No, for real, yeah. I've watched your podcast, yo. I've been telling you, I'm, like, probably your mega fan, bro. And a lot on this drive, bro, I actually banged out a couple of them.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't watched the whole Kentucky Boy Tyler one, so I threw that on while I was driving, like... I just need shit playing. Like, even when I'm sewing, like, it almost doesn't matter if I don't care about it. Like, I just need something playing. But those were mad good. Shout out to Pierce, bro. I hit you up.
Shout out.
You're the homie in the DMs and shit. He's mad funny. He's mad cool. His shit was mad good. You know, just gotta keep fucking busy while I can't just sit in silence. I'm not a silence type of person.
You listen to music? Like, who are you playing?
Oh, God. I've played everything on this trip. I'm big on Freddie Gibbs. I love Freddie Gibbs. I've been fucking with King Cruel. I don't know if you fuck.
Nah.
Bro. Someone's gonna say, yeah, he's mad good. He's mad fucking good. A lot of rap.
Fuck with Yeet?
Yeah, bro.
Dude, oh my God. I don't know what the fuck it is about his music.
You fucking with it?
Yes.
Yes, bro, yes.
Dude, I fuck with Yeet heavy.
Yeah, dude,
and people want to, like, discriminate on that. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, no, Yeet's mad cool. I get it because it's, like, it's the mumble rap type of shit, like...
Well, you know what he's saying.
Yeah, I think he's doing kind of, like... similarly route to Playboy Cardi, where it's like first he comes out and like he blows up heavy, like how Cardi did on like Broke Boy and the Magnolia and shit.
Yeah.
And like he blows up, but then it like this isn't even the start. Like he's gonna keep developing and kind of change his style. And now Playboy Cardi's a vampire. Like who would have seen that coming from the 18-year-old or however old when he made Broke Boy?
Magnolia, all that shit.
You wouldn't have guessed Whole Lotta Red was coming. So who knows? Yeet's gonna be like a punk star. He made one song that's like a punk type of sample.
I think
And he
on
flipped
his
it.
recent
Yeah, it's
album,
like bag after bag. Bro, that shit's mad good. Like, that's like my favorite song.
I fuck with Come On and then Flawless.
I've been fucking rocking with Yeet. Yo, shout out to, I'm gonna shout out mad people in this. Shout out Max Ballas, my boy, Lil Fajita. He's been fucking with Yeet since the beginning, and he put me fucking on.
Is that the producer, homie?
Nah. That's my boy Chris. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Chris, yo. He's the reason I got into fashion. Real shit. Like,
so what's the start? You know, what made you want to like start sewing clothes? Like, I know you for like constructing garments.
Yeah.
All that shit.
Yeah. So I was always just into like basic fashion, like in like high school or whatever. Like
Supreme and shit.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be able to like buy any of that shit. Like I wasn't rocking with it like that. It was more like Jordans, honestly.
Like were you flipping sneakers and shit?
Yeah. I was doing all that shit. Yes, that was the original hustle. I would go to the sneaker conventions and go pick up like whatever, just try to keep trading up. That was my big thing. I would just keep trading.
Yeah, that's a fucking hustle.
Yeah, and then you'd have like 6 pairs out of 2 and then sell all those and you would make a bunch of cash back, and like that was the move. Just try to like up your number of pair of sneakers you had. But I had no real like style or nothing. Like it was just like jeans, t-shirt, and whatever pair of sneakers. So I didn't really care that much.
So when did you first like pick up a sewing machine? Like, how'd you get that machine? Like, who might have given you the machine?
I think the first machine I bought, honestly, I think was like 6 months before COVID.
6 months before COVID?
It was the first time I like really hopped on a machine and like decided like I'm gonna try this out. So that kid Chris, my boy Chris, he went to FIT in New York, Fashion Institute. So he was up there chilling, and he was just like, "Yo, you want to come hang out?" Like we were just friends. I knew him from like just smoking and hanging out in high school and shit. So like I went and hung out with him in the city, and I started seeing like FIT obviously is like the hub of like a lot of new ideas. So everybody's just got their own style. Like everybody is individual like you, where like they'll be popping out with colors or all black or like crazy silhouettes, and it's like, I know you're not buying all this, and like even if you are, I can't. Like I can't keep buying clothes. I don't really like to do that. Like keep buying new clothes. Like I've had most of this since like fucking sophomore year of high school. So like I don't like doing that. And then he was like, "Yo, like most of the people are making it. They're doing their own thing." So I just kind of got interested with that. I started like cutting up jeans and patching in like t-shirts behind it. So it was like patchwork type shit, and I would sew it by hand. And every single one of those has fallen apart, bro. It was like the worst stitches.
If that's where you gotta start.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. They were cool. I still wore those up until like a few months ago when they would fall apart. Like I still rock them. And then once I got the machine.
So you personally just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go buy the machine." Yeah.
It was a Singer, one of the
heavy duty.
Yes, it was the heavy duty. Yeah, I bought that. Yeah, from the Ass Pizza video. Yeah,
there's the gray one.
Yeah. So I ran that thing into the ground, and then I ended up selling it. But yeah, I had that one. That was my first machine. I think it's like $100-something bucks. So it wasn't like too crazy, but it was like, all right, I'm doing this now. Like,
it's the best starter. Like,
it's
you want to start,
and you can really put it through the process of what you're going to be doing for the next, like if you continue it for a year, that machine will handle everything you're going to do within that year. And then maybe you'll outgrow it out of a year. Like, you'll need something better. But, I think the first thing I made was, like, I think I did a button-down. Like, a button-down shirt. Yeah, because I have a friend who owns a brand. I'll shout them out, too. Shout out Nissa, New York. Shout out Amanda. She went to FIT, and she's a great designer, like super, super, super good. And she had all these patterns that she was like, "Hey, yeah, if you need a pattern, like just let me know." She gave me a button down. Yeah, seriously, button down, and I made that, and I don't even know if I ever finished it, to be honest. I like,
dude, half my like starter shit is half finished. Like,
yeah,
I said, fuck it, on to the next. Like, and I started to like put it together a little bit more, and then fuck it, it's not looking that good. And then eventually, you get that good like
where like it's at least good enough where you're like, I'm gonna wear it out.
Exactly.
When someone's like, yo, where'd you get that? It's like, oh, I made it.
Uh-huh.
Like that's
Dude,
the goal, bro. That's the goal.
Fucking first time anyone ever said, yo, I like your pants or whatever.
Right.
I was like, oh, thank you. And then I was like ordering pizza or some shit. I go sit down, and then I'm like, fuck. I should have said I made that.
Yeah. Nah, you know what? Because at first I did that where I'd be like, thanks, bro, I made them, blah, 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 and start talking about them. And, like, people will think that's cool, but they're not into it like we're into it. Like, they're just like a
spectator, in a way.
Exactly. Exactly the word I was looking for. They're, like, just kind of the audience where it's like, they look at it and they're like, wow, that's super dope. And they're letting you know that means they do really like it if someone, like, points it out. Like, now at this point, I don't even... I try not to just talk about it to random people at this point. Yeah, like, if they're, like, really asking about it and they really seem like they care about fashion or something, I'll start talking about, like, oh, yeah, well, I make stuff, this is how you do this, whatever. But for the most part, like, if I just get a nice compliment, I say thank you and I keep it pushing. Because, like, I'm not trying to start explaining, like, yeah, dude, I had to sew all this. It took a year, like, whatever. Like, so, but it's super nice when people point out stuff like that. It's like, to me, that's what I'm working for sure. Like, that's like, if someone likes your fit, that's the mark. That's definitely the mark.
Fuck. So where'd you go after button-up shirt? What'd you make after that?
I started with pants pretty quick after that. I jumped to pants. Shout out Made by Finks. He's the homie. He sent me the first pants pattern I ever used. It's a Angela Kane pattern, and I don't even know what ended up with those pants. Those probably didn't get finished either, but learning the whole process was really important because, like, the fly is a pretty complicated area.
That's the most...
Not even when you're first starting. It's complicated for a while, but there gets to a point where you kind of get it. You can kind of simple it down. Like, the pattern I used, that Angela Kane one, was more complicated than it needed to be.
Sometimes you just need, like, literally the most basic pattern.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And you can still make something that looks pretty good. Like, alright, so just to do a comparison, like, I made a pair of pants that was based off a Dickies pattern, and Dickies are great pants, I wear them all the time, but they're a little simpler how they're made. In the fly area especially, it's, like, a lot more squared off, and, like, it's just easier to make.
Yeah.
Because they make it more in a large quantity of factory, stuff like that. But then, like, I was making a pair of suiting pants, like a pair of suit pants. And the pattern for that had a much more intricate fly, but it looked a lot cleaner on the inside. Things were lined, things were hidden a little better. So it's worth it for sure to do the complicated fly, but you have to, like, balance it, the pros and cons. Like, if you're making a simpler, like, work pair of pants that doesn't need the super complicated fly, do the simple one. But
so, have you ever, like, made a pattern?
Oh, I make all my patterns. Yeah,
For real?
Well, now at this point, I make all my patterns. So I went to school for fashion, but then I started taking classes, so localized classes at a super small, and I'm not gonna shout it suck. So they taught me kind of the basics. What they also taught me was rub-offs. Do you know what rub-offs are? Okay, so...
Rub-offs?
Yeah, it's pretty much how to make anything. So, alright, a t-shirt pattern has been perfected at this point. Like, if you're making a t-shirt and then adding some other stuff to it later, but you need that basic silhouette, that's been perfected already. You don't really have to draft that every single time if you know what you're making already. So what you could do is take a t-shirt that you already own and you like, and fits you well, and you're basically tracing it out onto paper using
So you cut it up
seams.
and all that?
No, you don't have to cut it or nothing. Dude, when I tell you, I've worked for people who tell you, this is what people in the industry do all the time at like costume shops. They'll have you go to whatever designer, buy this piece, bring it to me, make a rub off, go return it. You get all your money back. You don't have to.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. This is what everybody does. Nike's doing it to people at a large scale, and small costume designers are doing it on a small scale. Everybody does it. Is it stealing? Probably. But isn't everything kind of stealing? Like, what's the difference of inspiration and stealing? It's not that I want people to steal stuff, but it's like, you're going to do your thing at the end of the day, even if you're kind of stealing the idea. It might be worse than the original. So it doesn't matter if you stole it. Nobody's going to care. Like, it sucks, you know?
Yeah, like, someone once told me, and this was another designer, he's like, you know, even if it's like, if it looks like you might be taking someone else's style, you know, just make it better.
For real,
you know?
yeah. Imitation's the highest form of flattery. Like, if you're inspired by something, that means it's affected you to the point where you're like, I need to make something that embodies the same idea, resembles it, something like that. So, like, clearly it's pretty, you know, it's a good thing if you're imitating something. Like, I feel like people should always take it as way more of a compliment than they do. Like, I see smaller creators, like, get wrapped up with this whole, like, they stole this, and this guy stole that, and Boohoo Man took my design. Like,
it's too much drama.
Like, who cares, bro?
Yeah.
Like, people. I saw Cody Phillips handle it the best way I've ever seen somebody handle it.
Yeah.
He has people send him replicas, or like he'll buy replicas.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And then he'll show the differences and be like, "Yeah, man, if you want to buy this for $40, go for it. I don't care." Like, the pants are like printed. It's like, it's terrible. Yeah, dude, it's horrible. And you look at that and you're like, yeah, obviously I'm not going to buy the Boohoo Man version. I'm going to buy the original. But it's got to be feeling good to him that there's somebody in a factory like, hey, this will sell out. If we just can make this on mass production for cheap, the design is good enough that it'll sell out. That means your design was good enough.
Yeah.
That's banging. That's banging. You got to take imitation as way more of a compliment. I see way too many people get too wrapped up about it, too mad or whatever. Like, it's just not necessary. I would love if somebody copied my shit, you know, and maybe they'll make a better version. Maybe they'll take the idea and make it way better. Like, that's what we want. And then I'm going to see that and be like, yo, you stole my idea and made it better? Fuck, now I got to make a better idea. Like, you know, it's all competition, and it only makes you better to have competition. That's why there's a Burger King next to every McDonald's, you know? You know, you need competition. You have to.
True. But then you also need, like, that community, you know? Like, even if it's competitive, it's like everyone's working together, you know?
Absolutely. And that's the banging part about a community, is that there's no limit of how many designers somebody could be interested in. If someone likes clothes, they can like 1,000 designers. Like, it's not a finite amount of popularity out there. There is enough credit and followers, and there's no cap of how many people you can follow. You know, like, there's enough for everybody to get some. So, like, I'll see people who I've worked with, like, kind of getting their break or getting their shot or maybe taking a step forward. And you know, it's a natural reaction to be, like, kind of envious, jealous. You're like, bro, I want to be there. That's what I'm working towards, too. But you got to remember, like, it's all a process. Like, everybody takes their own steps.
It's something you got to, like, kind of be inspired by, too. Like, you know, like...
Exactly. There's so many people.
Journey, you know?
Exactly. Fuck. So many people around me that I've worked with inspire me directly. Like, I think I get more inspired by, like, regular real-world connections than, like, some really avant-garde artist. Like, that shit inspires me, too. Like, that's the whole point. It's invoking emotion and shit. But I think I get more inspired by just, like, regular activities and kind of like the mundaneness of life sometimes. Like, that can be more inspirational to me.
So let me ask you this. And I've asked everyone I've ever interviewed this same question. When you're making a garment, what is your favorite part of the process from start, the original idea, middle being the creation of the idea, the sew-in work, or the finished product, which is the finished product? What might be your favorite, you know?
Honestly, I don't like any of no.
Honestly?
Honestly, there's times where I'm like, this all sucks. I don't know why, but no, I think I really enjoy being in it, like the middle, like the being in the heat of it, like the process. Like I'm kind of big on that like flow state kind of shit.
Yeah.
So like when you're working, you have a coffee, you're grinding, you're like listening to music, I'm bouncing around the room, like I think that that's a good place for me to be. That's where I feel happy, you know, when I'm like only thinking about this thing, like almost like tunnel vision blinders. But then it can come off. It can, you know, you can get out of that mode. But
yeah,
it's really fun to really be. That's what I like. I might be alone in that, but I like being in like in the middle of it. That's what I call it, like the heat of it.
I agree with that because when you're like sewing, it's like meditative. It's just the hum of the machine, everything.
That's the thing. I get like frantic when I'm making patterns because I'll make like a paper pattern, then a muslin pattern, and then make the actual garment. So I'll be like bouncing back and forth between drawing things and then trying it on, and then I have to go sew it again, and then so I'm jumping all around. But then when you get to sit down and like really just sew the garment, it's a nice like relaxing 2 days where I know I can just like listen to podcasts, like all that kind of stuff.
Just block everything else out. Like
I like a little bit of like it's kind of like in the kitchen. Like you need the
rush.
Yes, exactly. Ramped up. It needs to be a little bit of pressure. Like anxiety. There's a reason anxiety is a natural thing. It's like a bodily function where like sometimes you need a little like jump. Like I do struggle a lot with anxiety. Like I have to take medication for it and shit. But like there's a part of it that is good for you. Like stress, anxiety, like it pushes you to do things when you don't want to do them. Or it gives you like an urgency. Like sometimes that's necessary, bro.
That's like when you put yourself in an awkward position that you've never been to or been in before, it's like, you know, like what can it be, like going up on stage or something. Right. That's super awkward for anyone at first because once you first do it, you might do something else that's a little smaller and still kind of awkward, but you have that experience of being on stage, and you're not going to walk in there like all frantic. You're going to be like, okay,
exactly.
You know?
Repetition is always like the best way to get better at something. Like I'm big on the whole like practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress. You have to keep practicing just to progress. You're never going to be perfect, but you got to keep progressing. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely think being in the war of like being in the middle of like cutting out fabric and stuff, that's where I thrive. That's my favorite part of me. And like all this, I'm a very hands-on person.
Yeah, you did this whole fucking setup.
Yeah. I did the whole thing. It's taken.
How long did this all take?
Better part of a year. Better part of a year. I worked full time through a lot of that. Probably like 8 months of it. I was working full time, so it was really hard to get to it. But once a lot of the foundational kind of stuff was done, it started moving a lot faster. And then like once these were in, everything's flown since then. Like then it's just been like, you know, put some paint on, put your stove on, shit like that. So,
dude, you got everything.
Yeah. Everything. I'm not like bumming it at all. Like I'm definitely comfortable in here. I got a mattress from home. Like this is my real mattress, so I'm not like, you know, I feel very comfortable in here. You know, I sleep in parking lots, but like that's the most that I'm bumming it. Like that's, I gotta be honest, it looks way bummier than it is. Like if you just lower your standards a little bit, like your standard of living, a lot more becomes very comfortable. Like as long as there's something comfortable, like holding me up, I'm good. Like that's pretty much as good as you could get. So, yeah, I've been having a blast in this. This is probably like my first far trip in this. I did like one trip to Pennsylvania, which is like 2.5 hours from where I live. But this is my first like big trip in it. So
Yeah,
it's been great.
Or do you like driving?
I don't know. I
I love driving.
I
personally.
I feel like I think I like driving, and then after like the first hour, it's just like, damn, bro, like what are you doing? You have to just like forget what you're doing. Like I gotta just set cruise control and put on some music or like try to get into a podcast. Like sometimes when you're really into a podcast, it's almost like you're in the conversation, kind of like you're listening to this shit and thinking about it. I try to get in that state a lot when I'm driving because it's like, especially out here, like going on I-80 West, it's 2 lanes and it's just straight. There's nothing else. It's like 300 miles. It's like cruise control. So, yeah, you know, this thing rides pretty nice. It's a diesel, so gas is expensive, but it kind of lasts. You know, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. I'm excited. I got like 13. I think Denver is like 13 hours from here. 13 and a half.
Fuck it. Hopefully, like, shit, every stop you're at, you get something from it. You know? Like,
yeah, literally. That's how I've been looking at it. Like, when I drove from Seattle to New Jersey, when we drove back, it was really like, it was a cool experience to really see how different cities look. Because I had never really been out of that, like, northeastern vibe. Everything's cold. And
What cities have you been to prior from New Jersey?
Cities in New Jersey?
Outside of New Jersey?
I think just New York.
Yeah.
I've only been to New York.
So last night was the first time you were like in Chicago driving by.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. No. So when we were in Seattle, we stayed like 2 days in Seattle. I didn't get to like experience it too much because we went like hiking and shit. So we weren't really in like downtown or anything. But I saw Seattle, and I was in Loveland, Colorado, which is like a small city. It's probably more similar to like this, like where there's like a little downtown area, but then it's mostly like suburbs.
Yeah.
Chicago was like the only other city I've like driven through, and damn, I'll be honest, I usually shit talk a lot of cities. Chicago looked pretty cool, I gotta be honest.
Chicago at night, man.
I can fuck with Chicago, yeah. I took pictures. It was, you guys got a cool little spot up here, I'll be honest.
But shit, I was just in New York. New York's like 10 Chicagos in one.
Yeah. It's like, energy.
Whoa.
And everybody says the same thing, that it's like, there's an energy. And it's true, but that's not always, it's not just like energy. It's like stress all the time. It's just like, it's like pressure all the time. It's like in a bad way, the bad kind of pressure, the bad kind of stress. It's like a pressure cooker in New York. It's
like when you walk out, you got to do something, you know?
If you're not already making your next step, you're fucking up somebody else behind you, and they're gonna let you know. They're gonna be like, "Yo, you're pissing me off." Like, and you kind of can't blame them because they know what they're doing. So why don't I know what I'm doing? It's a whole thing. Yeah, New York's cool, yo. I mean, I've spent a good amount of time in New York. I'm a fan. I don't live there, and I don't think I ever would, because that's a whole different ball game than just visiting. Yeah, New York's where it's at. You know, I'll spend as much time in New York as I can. You know.
So you worked in the garment district?
Yeah. I was working. So the same woman who owned the school owned a studio up in the city as well. So I would go up there and teach classes in. It was on like 36th Street or something in the garment district. I would teach classes, and then I would help her like run around and do shit, grab fabric, doing like invoices, like all that kind of.
And this was it before you started sewing or after?
After. This was
after.
Within the last 6 months I was doing this. Yeah. So, and then through her, so I guess is like a funny story. I was at work, and I was going to my lunch break. I come off the elevator, and I ran into this woman. She's great, and she works for a costume shop. I'm not going to shout her out because she probably doesn't want me to, but she works for a really credible costume shop that was in the same building as I was working in. And we knew each other just from saying what's up, and we start talking, we start chatting, and she mentioned that they were starting to do an apprentice program, so she was starting to look for some people. I was like, how do I apply for that, you know? And she's like, well, what's your skill level? And I don't have a degree in anything. It's kind of hard to, like, present your skill level when you don't have a degree. Because that's, like,
a degree in what, though?
I guess, like, fashion design or something. But, like, I don't think you need that. But it is easier to just... It's like a trophy. It's like, oh, look, I won this. Like, I know how... And it's, like, proof that you know how to do this. Versus just taking your word or something. So I get it. But, you know, I started explaining, like, what I do. And I was like... You know, I had nothing to show her. And that was kind of the problem. And I looked down. I was like, I made these pants. And she was like, for real? She starts taking a look at them. She's like, yeah, these are pretty cool. So we start talking, and I worked with her for a little bit, probably only like a month, just kind of giving her some help around her shop. We worked on a couple like costumes for movies, and that was a really cool experience. It was a lot less sewing and a lot more like embezzling and beads and all these kind of extra things that I don't usually get to play with.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool experience to kind of do that. But she was great. She taught me a lot, and she hooked me up with a lot of connections to start applying to places and looking for a more full-time job. Nothing really worked out with that, and she's great. I'm not shit-talking her. She's amazing. But yeah, nothing really ended up working out with that. I did that for like a month or so, something like that. And once I finished that, I was like, all right, I need to make a choice. I need to...
Up the ante?
Yeah, I need to either do something in fashion or kind of cut it out. So I decided, like, to just go forward and make a collection, full collection, and release it. So that's what I've been doing for the last, like, month now. I finished sewing the collection. We just did the photo shoot, like, a week ago, bro. Talk about not planning for something. Oh so
you haven't dropped it yet? It's like
no.
In the photos?
November 4th. November 4th, we're dropping. Yeah, please, everybody go check it out, November 4th. Yeah, it's like a 7 or 8 piece collection. We have all kinds of stuff. It's going to be t-shirts and pants, and I got some other cool stuff. I got jackets. I got some really cool stuff. They're all designed by me, and then, you know, I make the samples, and we're going to do it pre-order, so people can put in their orders, and then I'm going to close the website, see what orders we have, and then I'm going to go through and make everything myself for everybody in the coming 3 to 4 weeks. So, yeah, after that, everybody will have their pieces, and we'll see what's going on after that.
Yeah.
I have no plan in life after that. This is I only plan a month at a time. So.
I mean, shit, you got this little space right here ready for sewing machine.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
sewing
the last.
On the go.
Yeah,
fuck.
That's the last piece. Is I put the desk in, and then I can start moving around and sewing in here, which is.
You know what would be fire?
Huge.
Like an on-go tailor service. You know, like, yo, you need a little touch-up on something? I could pull up, just sew it in the van and here.
That's it. I gotta get better at advertising and marketing myself, because I don't do it at all, and I hate doing that kind of stuff. But I'll get that kind of business, but it's only local. It's
word of mouth.
Yeah. It's definitely the most authentic, and it's the best. But I want to try to use the tools that we have. Like we talk about how garbage social media is, because it is. But all these things that can be used against you, you could also use if you do it right. Like, Instagram is rotting our brain and shit, but if you are using it the right way, you could spread your product or whatever on there as well. You could be one of those people rotting other people's brains if you want. You know what I mean? But you don't have to use it as a consumption. You can use it as a tool to get your stuff out, like a vessel to get it out. And that's what I want to try to focus more on. getting my stuff out because I've been making stuff for a little while now, but I haven't like shown anybody. You know what I mean? So like I've had this collection drawn for like a couple months, like probably like 5 months ago. I finished it, like the designs, I had them all settled, and it just kind of sat for a little bit, and I updated it, tweaked things, and then now we're at where we are now, where I'm super happy with it.
So you work with muslin?
Yeah.
I skipped like the whole muslin.
No, well, it's not always necessary. It's definitely not always necessary, but I think muslin's a great tool because if you get like a bolt of muslin, that'll last you forever. It'll last you so long where I need to open the armhole, lengthen something, feel the differences, and then change that on paper. Do it again, keep doing that until I have something I'm comfortable with, and then go get my final fabric that's going to cost me like $16 a yard or something. And then you can make sure that you're like, it allows you to go through the process before using your final fabric. So you get a little bit more used to it. You kind of know like what you're doing or whatever.
When I think of muslin though, I think like, damn, if I put X amount of time into like making this out of muslin, I'm not gonna want to make the other thing because I did the whole muslin process, and I'm like, I want to save myself time in that way, you know.
I think there's a lot of times you can. I think it's when it's a new silhouette is probably when I use muslin the most. Like when it's not just a pair of pants I haven't made before, but if I'm doing something different with them, like say they come out real wide.
That's when you'll use it?
Yeah, just to make sure like all my stuff is kind of falling at the right places. Or like if I'm making say I was making something for a woman that was a specific size, like I had to change the size for her or something, or if I had to change the size for anybody, really, like I could do something with muslin first to kind of make sure it fits them before I go buying fabric. Because that's usually when like I'm doing commissions, like one-of-one kind of stuff. I want to really make sure that they're happy with what's going to be made before I make it, because you can't just sell that to anybody, you know.
Muslin is super thin though, no?
Yeah.
Do you ever have to like double layer it just to get like a...
No, I mean a lot of times it's not going to be the same, you know, textile as what you're using in the final form, but like it mimics most draping fine, and it mimics like the process fine enough where like if I'm making a pair of pants, I can make weird, like you got like linen pants on, but like it definitely shows you like, all right, now I need to bring the waist in, or little things like that, especially when you're in these first few years of making clothes. Like you really got to dial that fit in, and it's just a trial and error kind of thing. So, you know, it's going to be a while before I can just make a pattern and know it'll sit well. You know?
Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know, muslin is just a thin material you can buy and make like sample pieces out of it, so you can alter it in any way you want before making the actual garment.
Yeah, it's used a lot with dressmaking because they use like a form, obviously. So instead of just draping your final fabric, they'll drape with muslin first, and then they can pin it. They can kind of lay it out, cut it, and then they can cut their fabric to be exactly that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a template piece, and it's super thin. You can rip it by hand. If you just snip it, then you can just rip the whole thing. It's like super easy to work with. I'm a fan of working with muslin. You can draw on it too. You can write on it with a pencil. So you can like make notes, and
it's damn near like paper.
It's seriously, it's like a flexible paper. That's a really good word for it, actually.
Flexible paper.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
So you know how to make shirts, jeans. Is there anything you might be thinking of, like making it like jackets? Like, what garment haven't you made yet that you might want to learn in the near future how to make?
I think the only thing I haven't made are a pair of shoes.
Shoes.
Like a pair of sneakers or like canvas, Converse. Like, I've never done it, but that's something I could really get behind. I'm also really interested in all this like 3D printed sneakers that people are doing. Like, I guess
like the Adidas.
Yeah, like with the algae I don't know if those are 3D printed, but I think it's something like that where they're 3D sculpted or something like that.
Or molded or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Adidas went further where they're doing the 3D printed slide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people doing it, and I don't know who did it or whatever, but it's just super interesting to see because, I mean, it's cool first off, but it's kind of allowing you. I think the process that you design in influences the end result. So if you're drawing on paper versus using a CAD software versus using 3D design, like these are they'll all be different. Kind of, it'll kind of make your process different.
Yeah.
Like I use a lot of square rulers, like squared off 90-degree, because I want a lot of boxy angles in my clothes. So it kind of like just that little thing will kind of change the look in the end. I'm going.
I haven't thought about it like that.
Yeah. So there's a guy. Shout out to Dulce 1900, I think it is, something like that. Bro is insane. He uses 3D CAD software and makes like tech packs, like technical. I'm blanking. Technical drawings. And you see, like, he'll do like a time lapse of him making it, and you can see like, because of the way he's working and like placing in 3D sculpted models, he can kind of predict where other things are going to be, and I think that influences his design in the end. Like it's a much more futuristic, like he has things that wrap around, or like he has this one, it's a pocket and there's a strap through it that comes from the belt.
Yeah, like black.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that that's why he thought of it or anything, but like I feel like a lot of those things maybe wouldn't come to my mind because I don't use that kind of stuff. But since he does, he's gonna kind of be like, oh shit, I could kind of like slip this through here. Like I'm not thinking about it in a 3D space. He is.
That's why the hair is like right there.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot. Maybe it was that airport when I was driving in. I was like, yo, this plane's gonna land on top of me. I live like far from the airport, but when you're driving by it, I've seen that before where it's like looks like it's coming down, but this shit was crazy.
No, everyone says that, like anyone that's out of town, if you're driving by the airport and the airplane, you're like, oh, like I've literally seen people like, oh shit,
yeah,
you know, like
perfect timing. I was like, but yeah, I mean, Chicago's been cool. I've been enjoying it. I've only been here a little while. I'm gonna get the hell out of here to keep on moving, but I could see myself coming back.
You don't want to like explore a little?
I got time to make. That's the only reason.
Yeah. When do you have to be in Colorado?
So, Colorado, I'm trying to be there by Wednesday around like 2-ish, like afternoon.
And it's Tuesday right now, about 12 p.m.
Yeah. So originally I was going to drive the full like 12, 13 hours straight there and then park for the night. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, I'm probably going to park somewhere halfway in the distance.
Rest.
Wake up early, and then get the rest of it done in the morning. Because I'd rather break it up. Because then when I get there Wednesday, I'm going to spend the whole day there. So I got like a day to rest. And I'm going to sleep in Denver. Hang out. I'm meeting up with a friend out there. Shout out Angelo. He doesn't do anything with clothes, but that's the homie. And that's the type of people who like, I'm more inspired by like our real world shit. Like we're going to go out and just have fun. Like, and that's more inspirational sometimes. Like being a person. I got to remind myself I'm bad at it. It's funny I'm talking about it because I'm bad at it. But you got to be a person. Like sometimes you get so wrapped up with like
social media and shit.
Like, whether it's social media, the product you're putting out, your own perception of what you want to be. Like sometimes you get so wrapped up. Like I hear people like talking about like, when am I considered a designer, or when like. It's like,
that's like
you don't even care. Like, what does it matter?
Like you know, if you're a designer, you know, like like when I was starting out, I was like, I don't know if it's still a hobby. I don't know if I'm taking it not serious. Like,
but it doesn't even matter because. Yeah, eventually you'll start taking it more seriously, but it's so subconscious. You're kind of not even going to realize until it's too late, where you're like fully in it.
And it's not even that it's too late. It's like, oh shit, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
you know, like.
And for me, I know I was going too deep on like I was just being too involved in my head on this kind of shit where it's like, I need to remember that I'm a person, and also, you're not going to keep making new and cool shit if you don't experience life. Mm-hmm. Like, if I only designed from the experiences that I had up until right now, and then I stopped experiencing life to just design, it's like, bro, they're going to get stale really quick.
Yeah, you wouldn't get much out of it.
No, not at all. Like, I have to keep doing stuff and having new experiences and meeting people and feeling things so that I have these new things to drive me and inspire me to make some new clothes. And like,
yeah,
for me, a lot of times, like, I talk shit, like just bullshitting and talking, and I kind of want my clothes to almost be like that, where they could be kind of serious or they could not, or it could kind of just be a joke where, yeah, it's kind of serious or it's kind of not. Like, it doesn't have to be so concrete, you know. Mm-hmm. I know I have my ideas that inspired it, but it can mean something else to whoever else, and whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. It's not going to bother me, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense. Like, just real life experience, just seeing different people's styles here.
Oh, that's the biggest.
It's like, what? Like,
that is the biggest thing. Like, I mean, New York was obviously like a shock.
New York, it's like
there.
Damn near everyone's on this competitive, like,
yeah,
fit, like,
everyone's got to have Helmet Lang and Yamamoto on. Like, it's like a competition. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, I was probably like 18 the first time I really went up to New York to like hang out and like do my own thing.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that I really noticed, was just everybody looked individual. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how small your town is or whatever.
No, everyone looks the fucking same out here.
Like, I'm from a real small town, for real. Like,
yeah,
to the point where, like, there's only one or two cool spots to shop at. So sometimes you'll go and, like, say you go to a kickback or a function, you're wearing something, oh yeah, first time wearing it. You'll see someone else wearing the exact same shirt. Because you both thought it was fresh at the only fresh store.
You're from this small town.
Yeah, it's like, say like freshman year that happened to me. I was like, yo, I need to make sure this never happens again. Like, the idea of really looking just like somebody bothered me. I think that was probably my first like inspiration. And then once I got to New York, I saw everybody was doing it. I was like, yo, I could do this, even if I just like cut up some jeans and hand stitch it, whatever. At least nobody else will look like me. Like, nobody else will be wearing the same thing. It used to bother me so much.
I think that's the undertone for a lot of designers. Like, just looking original, like, all that shit. And it's like, you're more comfortable in what you make, knowing no one else has this shit.
Like, I think a lot of times people focus on it being expressive and, like, expressing something specific. But I think more, like you said, like the undertone, more realistically, they're just trying to express that they're individual. They're just trying to say, I'm not falling into the same routine everybody else is. I'm just trying to let you know I'm not going to always shop at Zara or whatever. You know, like, I think a little bit different. That's why I feel like whether it's subconscious or conscious, people who dress a little different are doing. They're trying to just say, like, yo, I'm individual. Like, I'm not on the sheep, like, whatever, like, thinking like everybody else.
So do you buy any streetwear, or do you keep up with any streetwear brands as of now? Like me, I fuck with Half Evil, Fugazi, you know,
honestly,
like, underground.
I've fallen off my, like, streetwear game a lot more with the brands. I've been much more into, like, designers and underground designers. So, like, Cody Phillips is, like, massive inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Buying his clothes, looking at his clothes. Shout out him. Shout out Ugly Concepts.
Shout out.
The homie, yo. Like, and his designs are out of this world. The bondage stuff he does, and you can, like, really see his inspirations, but it's not in a bad way. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to see people's inspirations. Like, I'm only guessing his inspirations. I don't know them, but, like, it's reminiscent of, like, Helmet Lang and stuff. Like, you know, it's really cool stuff. He's making great stuff. I'm trying to think who else. Anthony Riddle. He's great designer. He's very like avant-garde and like forward thinking kind of shit. So sometimes it's a little out there, but I think he's one of those people that like pushes the envelope, and then the masses will kind of reel it back to what's going to be like acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's definitely like a boundary pusher kind of guy.
You gotta push boundaries.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There's a role for it. I think a lot of people fill that role well. Like,
I mean, there's this constant barrier, and then someone's here, and then it's like, oh shit, and like, you know?
Yeah, the line will always keep getting pushed back. I mean, like, now guys wear 5-inch shorts. Like, go back to like 2002.
I'm sorry,
Soulja
but
Boy would have
like,
ruined you. Yeah, he had Janko jeans on with the bit.
Dude, the jank. Oh my god.
Dog, I saw a guy skating in Jankos at Washington Square Park, and I was like, can he even move? Like,
some of those are like,
I mean,
the
they're
skinnier
tough.
ones.
They're tough, yeah.
Are fire, but the bed, like,
yeah.
how are you wearing it? Like,
but that's what I mean. I'm sure they'll say that about, you know, now style, and it's always a cycle, the 20-year fashion cycle we talk about, like
20-year fashion cycle.
Yeah, like things that were cool 20 years ago, like not straight up they'll just be cool again, but like inspirations of it. The Y2K, like now Gen Z is all about like doing the Y2K. People have talked about, I guess. Maybe I'm the only one talking about it, but I've heard it before that things come in cycles, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it can make it easier for like predicting trends and stuff, but I'm not like super interested in that. Like, it's nice to know, and it's nice to have an idea of like what may be more accepted at the time, or what will be seen as like the acceptable style. But at the end of the day, that's not like influencing the design much.
So, if you had to work for a brand right now, just given a spot on the table as like creative director, what brand might you?
Damn, that's a good question.
You know?
Oh, I'm trying to think, because I wouldn't want to like change someone's whole vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to like go into.
But let's say they wanted your vision for a specific project. Maybe.
Here's a brand that I really like, Tom Bogo. They do a lot. They've inspired a lot of my work too. They do a lot of like heavy on the utilitarian and the workwear.
I love that style.
Yeah, those are. I mean, I know when I'm designing, those are like two staples that I'm constantly thinking about. My personal style and my design language is very much like utility and workwear. Those two words are like always in
That's Tom Bogo right there.
Yeah, so I think if there was a brand that I could go into, and I wouldn't have to like change everything up, it would probably be them.
That's
and
then,
like
fucking
Tom Bogo's dope. I mean, obviously that's what I mean. I wouldn't want to go into like Louis Vuitton, because then it's like my shit's not Louis Vuitton. It's not for the people who buy Louis Vuitton. Like it's not for them. I mean, they can buy it, but it's just not gonna resonate with them. You know, Tom Bogo I think is much more like in the same headspace that I'm
in the air
They're
now.
dope. Yeah, are they?
No, I'm like.
Oh, it's
it's in the air. Like,
I thought you said they're in the area. No. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Nah, he's from New York. No,
is it? Damn, I don't even know. I've been slacking on that kind of shit. Like, I really been doing a lot more research on like, I don't want to call it history. I'll say like my inspiration. That's what I've been really interested in. So like, I'm hella inspired by Raf Simons, like most people are. Like, Raf Simons is, you know, I'm basically copying his work, let's be real. But he's super inspired by Helmut Lang. Like, if you look at his first show, he like kind of tricked people into thinking his show was a Helmut Lang show. So now I'll go and look into Helmut Lang, like that, the actual designer, not the brand now.
I see what you're saying, though.
You kind of see their process and what Raf took from that, and what do I take from Raf. You know, it's all like and it goes back to that imitation kind of stuff. Like, a lot of people said the first collection was an imitation of Helmut Lang. It's a lot of, you know, bondage stuff and black and.
You ever listen to any Threaducation videos?
I love.
Dude.
Shout out Threaducation.
Threaducation is.
I've learned more from that than anything else. Like
you
the
can't
history of it.
get that shit from textbooks. None of that. Like,
yeah, and it's presented in that like documentary kind of style. Like it's a story. They tell you the full story throughout.
So good.
Super interesting, and yeah, he does the one on Alex McQueen is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And his one on Rhapsody. Oh, I've watched that like 1,000 times. That's a really, really good one. Video, and I'm like, I gotta go learn everything now. Like, I gotta.
The Vivienne Westwood story is crazy. You got the Sex Pistols and all that shit, rock and roll. Like,
yeah, and she like 100% escorted in the original style that everything now has been derived from. Like punk, skate, anti-establishment. That was all her. Obviously,
that's still like a motive now. Like,
people inspiring her, and it goes back even further. You know.
I wonder who she was inspired by.
And then that's what you do. You go and look it up, and you see like, oh, she was inspired by whatever artist, like a painter or a musician. And then that's how you kind of start getting interested in other shit too. Like, there's a couple paintings that I'm not an artist, and I'm not even really that into art, but through understanding how clothes kind of represent things and get an idea across, now I can look at a painting and be like, oh, you know what, I actually kind of like that. Like, now I know how to interpret it my own way and shit.
Now, what were you saying about the painting?
There's one, I think it's called, it's like Tsar Nicholas kills his son, and it's just like, it's such a cool fucking painting. It's done super well, and you can like see his eyes, like this, it's a rumor or whatever. It's like a folklore story that he painted, but it's this like ruler of Russia killed his own son for like disobeying him. And it's the moment, not right after he kills him, but right after he realizes what he just did in a fit of anger. So like remorseful almost. You can like feel the remorse out of it. Like, what did I just do?
I'm gonna have to look that shit up.
Oh,
after
please
this.
do. It's such a like a it's so.
So let's say you go into a museum with a bunch of paintings. You know, there's like abstract art, and then there's like realistic art. Like me personally, I like those like super detailed. You could see every fingernail on the painting, not the abstract. Like what?
I think I'm more drawn to like that, like realism. Like I'm super interested in like I don't even know what century it is, but like 15th century like Russian shit. Yeah, and like early Roman works. I actually, that was my first tattoo. Was the the Michelangelo painting, whatever it's called. God creates man, God creates Adam, something like that. That was my first tattoo because I'm not religious. I don't really have any religion. I just am really into the art and kind of what that story represents, and it's like about, you know, giving your all to something. Things won't come to you unless you go all the way to it, type of idea. A lot of these people, Plato, whatever, like it gets tiring. Even like newer stuff like Noam Chomsky, but like art kind of gets that through a little bit easier, a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's like slippery, like it can just slide right in. It can like
there's a big barrier between, you know, listening to a song and like looking at a painting, because like are you gonna walk through a museum like blasting Yeet and like, yeah, I fuck with that right
You
there.
might. I might not. You might.
No. Like, if I'm at a museum...
Actually,
I'd
totally do that. That sounds like a good
Zeni.
time. That sounds like a mad good time. I'm big on Yeet.
Fuck.
No, yeah, I do like some, like, abstract art. Like, in New York, they have the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, and that...
Fuck, dude. Wait, did Virgil have... You know, I think it was Chicago and Atlanta. He had the... MCA in Chicago.
Yes. Yeah.
Did he have that in New York?
I think he did a MoMA collab. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The MoMA is great. It's like it's free to get in too, so you can just walk in and see like dope ass fucking art.
Have you been to the Met?
No, I've never been to the Met. No, yeah.
Dude, I was there.
Yeah.
That shit is like, it's like a museum, but it's like, I don't know. There's just so much shit.
got invited during what was the last one they just did for not Fashion Week? But
No, I know, like the American history.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. The Met Gala, the
yeah. Kentucky Boy Tyler had a piece in
Oh,
the
really?
museum, and I was a
Really?
week late to seeing it. I was like,
Oh.
fuck. I told
So
him.
it was during that time is when I just invited
Yeah.
to the museum, like something like that. But yeah, I didn't end up going, but that American or Gilded Age, that's what it was. Gilded
Okay.
Age type of stuff. That was like super super cool. I definitely thought it was. I thought it would have been a good time for sure. But yeah, no, I've never done the Met. I haven't done a lot of the museums up there. But yeah, I love all that kind of shit. It's a good time. You have to like be in the mood for it. It's not always
Yeah.
the right thing.
I went to another one. It was like Brooklyn something. It had like clothes on each level. I don't know.
I've never heard of it.
It might have not been Brooklyn something, but it was cool. It was like a. Now I'm not saying this with any negative connotation, but like a queer type of. As not as. So the guy is like flamboyant, you know.
Oh,
He's
like a gender fluid type of.
kind
like,
of, but he would make these crazy outfits.
Yeah.
Wear
yeah.
them on stage, and he put them all in this exhibit. And like
Ah.
each one had this different
That's
crazy
right. So,
story.
I just went to the Hard Rock kind of recently in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In AC. I'm sure they do this at all of them, but they have glass pieces with performance costumes from all these different different artists. Like there's like Rolling Stones, like Jagger's, like whatever pants he wore at this event or whatever, like a show he did, and they have it on a mannequin, like all throughout the whole place. It's so sick. Just walk around and see, like, because I mean, performance pieces and costume, like we were saying it earlier, it's such a different game. It's so different. Like,
Would you, if there was like a museum of like one-of-one pieces made by a bunch of different artists, would you go to that?
absolutely, yeah.
Dude, that would be like a breath of fresh air. Like,
yeah.
like whoa, this was made recently.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, like,
and especially the one-of-one idea. I think that was a big thing that drew me into the community that we both kind of have found ourselves in. Like, it's really interesting, the idea of like, you can't just buy this, or there's not even another one of these. Like, even if it's not made specifically for you, maybe you just really like this pair of pants that an artist made or whatever, and you're like, I really want that. It expresses what I'm thinking, and nobody else is going to have it, and it's that individuality, and it's all those things kind of wrapped up into one, in one garment.
Yeah.
That's why I think one-of-ones are going to have a bigger place in fashion.
For sure.
Exclusivity has always been a thing, but I think there's almost like a cap. Like once a garment is too exclusive, it's like idolized and revered, but it's never seen and it's never like really worn or something. So there's like a fine balance of things being exclusive, but also available enough that people are actually owning it and kind of sharing it with the world authentically.
That's a fucking bar right there. Too exclusive. Put
Seriously.
that on a fucking shirt.
Yeah.
Too exclusive.
But, yeah, I mean, some of the sneakers, like, you remember sneakerhead shit, like, some of them, they would be like only 400 pairs. You just hear about them. And it's like, that was the cool part of it, is that there was only 400 pairs. But then you never saw your favorite rapper, at a restaurant in it. Like,
But you still want it.
Yeah. I'd say you still want it, but it almost becomes this more like symbol than it is like a real thing.
Yeah. The last pair of shoes I flipped, it was 5 pairs of the Mocha ones.
Damn.
I was like, the Travis Scotts were fire because they had this brown silhouette. It was like cozy. It made gave you a warm feeling. I'm like, when these Mochas drop, I gotta buy 5 pairs. I bought them all resale.
Damn.
$300 each, all off StockX.
Holy
I waited
shit.
a couple months. They were 5 each. I said, boom, sold them, and that was my last flip ever. That's when it comes to shoes.
That's a good one.
The shoes now.
Mochas are tough too. I would rock the Mochas. I don't really like the most of the threes and shit, but I would rock those Mochas. Yeah.
What's your favorite Jordan?
There's a low 2 that I
Low 2.
Yeah, I think
Virgil
it's so slept on. There's a pair I have that are they're like the 25th anniversary of Jumpman or something, and they're like all white with
the classic
with a
with
like
the red.
they have a yellow. They have a yellow like a lace tag or whatever. Like it's like a big symbol right on the tongue. Those are really tough, and like some of the colorways on the low twos are kind of, you know, they make them kind of bugging.
The
but
two in general is a fire shoe.
I think the high.
I love the high.
I don't like it as much as the low. That's what I think they fucked up with the high. I think they should have just made it a low shoe from the beginning.
They're both fire.
But yeah, I think the low 2 is way too slept on. Like I think nobody talks about it. But yeah, I mean, I really like foam posits actually. I still like them. I would still rock them if I still had them. Or like
I always thought it was too stiff.
Yeah,
like the whole shoe.
They are. They're plasticky as hell. You got that right.
Yeah.
But if you get a good size, so they kind of have like a sock on the inside. Like it's more comfortable than you would think because it's like a separate inner. But no, they're not the best. But I used to have like the fighter jet ones, all camo ones. Those I still think about them, like, yo, those are dope. Those are dope sneakers, and like they totally fell out of style. But not. I'm still fucking with the foams. They don't really go with my style either. But like,
it's a hard shoe to like match.
Yeah, you got to be playing basketball, and there's no way to rock them. But to me, it's. Maybe not with an outfit, but it's one of the coolest looking shoes. Like I love that look. Same with the Iverson, the answers or the questions, whatever they are, the Reebok questions. Yeah. It's like one of my favorite silhouette sneakers. I'm big on like basketball sneakers, but it's kind of hard to work that with my style a little bit. But I make it work.
Last like question or two.
Yeah.
When it comes to like you just said style. When you put on an outfit, what do you start with? Like the pants, the shirt, the shoes?
I think I'm usually drawn to pants. Pants is definitely like my focal point. I guess it'll kind of depend on like. I think I always start with the pants, but if I start with something like kind of basic for pants, then I'll make sure I'm like, maybe I'm balancing it out with something else like that's more loud or more colorful, something like that. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much always starting with pants. And I got a lot of loud pants, so it's easier for me.
Loud pants.
Yeah, it's much easier for me to start there. And then this is honestly like my uniform. It's just like some pants, black t-shirt, black sneakers. That's all I'm trying to wear most of the time. I've almost given up on my own personal style at this point. I almost like clothes too much to care about them for myself. Making them and putting them out. I don't really care about putting on clothes or getting dressed really nice, you know? I've kind of fallen out of that, but it comes and goes. You know? Yeah. Sometimes you're going to a place and you're like, man, I gotta get fresh for this, you know? But yeah, I would say my style is dwindling on non-existent anymore.
What do you mean?
It's pretty much just like whatever, just right there, clean, accessible, comfortable. I'm really into like I've said, utility stuff inspires my work, and I like to wear a lot of it. So like Carhartt, whatever, Levi's, like stuff like that. I like stuff with a lot of function. Dickie pants. Like to me, that stuff looks good and feels good. Feels good to wear.
So when was the last time you walked around a mall and did some shopping? Because personally, it's been some fucking years for me.
You know, I could think of one time that I went to, there's like an outlet up in New York, the Woodbury Commons.
Okay.
And me and my boy drove up there because he wanted to get some stuff. And I looked around a lot. I didn't get anything, but there was a Vera Wang store that was really dope. They had an Alex McQueen outlet, and that was dope as hell. So I got to look around a lot of cool places. They had an Arc'teryx store, like all kinds of really cool shit. But I didn't end up buying anything. I find myself not buying clothes unless they're from a designer, like an underground designer.
Yeah, like that personal transaction. It feels so good at the end of the day.
I feel like the piece just says a lot more, kind of like you get a lot more out of wearing it for sure.
Like it's like when you buy something off of someone that made it, it's like this was made in someone's home.
That too, I love that. Like,
dude.
I love that feeling of like, and like you're able to communicate with them. Like, I got a size wrong when I bought something from a smaller designer, and I was able to just hit him up and be like, hey, like, do you have a different size? He's like, yeah, send him back, and that was it. Fixed it up. Yeah, I like to buy not even just the supporting small business type of thing, but I think their designs are better. Like, I genuinely think they're designing better stuff from an outsider's perspective. The underground stuff is just much better. So I'm usually buying stuff from there, or if I have something in mind that I want to make for myself, I'll do that. Where like I'll make, like, if I need jeans or I want a new pair of jeans, but I'm not finding anything I like, I'll make a pair that, like, I'll draw up a pair and make something that I like. That's been a really cool part of it. But I always thought I was going to do that more than I actually do. It turns out I don't do that very often.
Nah, it'll get to that point. Like, shit,
Yeah,
I gotta make my whole wardrobe. Like,
I think that's like my long-term goal, is to have like at least 75% of my closet be stuff I made. Yeah. Whether it's just for me or through collections or anything like that. Like, 75% would be cool, because you got to balance it out. But
yeah.
I think that would be like the long-term goal, realistically. Yeah, man.
All right then.
This has been awesome. This has been a real good time, yo. I'm glad you had
Appreciate
me. Glad you came to talk.
Fuck, I wish you the best of luck on your, like, journey.
I appreciate
this fucking van, dude. This is the first time I've ever been in, like, a converted van. Like,
yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, this was a fucking experience.
You go get your boys and you go get a van and you go do the same thing. It's fun.
All right, appreciate you.
You good, yo.